The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Tuesday training webinar. We will get started in just another minute or two. We're going to give everyone a chance to join, and then we'll begin. All right, looks like we have everyone here. So good morning or good afternoon, depending on which side of the country you're on. This is the Tuesday training webinar, and over the next 30 to 40 minutes, we'll be providing a general overview of Re-TRAC Connect. And I'm going to guide you through some of the common workflows, such as joining programs, completing surveys, and generating reports. The webinar is designed to help you get started with Re-TRAC Connect, and if you're looking for program-specific training, you'll want to contact your program manager. My name is Josh Reid, and I work for Emerge Knowledge, the developers of Re-TRAC Connect and Recycle Search. And before we begin, I just want to make sure that everyone can hear my voice and see the screen. Right now, you should see the Re-TRAC Connect website. Please either just type yes in the chat box, or you can click the raise hand icon to let me know that you can hear me and see the screen. Excellent. Thank you, Rena, and thank you, Kelly. And looks like everyone can hear me and see the screen, so that's great. All right, so during the training, I'm going to have everyone on mute so that we can continue to read sections. From time to time, I'll stop to see if there are any questions. You can ask a question at any time by just typing it into the chat box in the bottom. If you come up with a question after the training, feel free to reply to any of the Tuesday training emails. We do get those. We'll be able to reply to you that way. If I'm unable to answer your question during the training, I'll make sure to record it and send out the question and answer afterwards as well. All right, so before we begin, I do want to mention that we'll be using our demo server today, and that it's not the live Re-TRAC Connect system, so the data that we'll be reviewing is actually has been entered by us at Emerge Knowledge, and it doesn't represent any client data. So let's head over to the login page. So here's the login page. I'm going to log in. And as a reminder, if for whatever reason, if you forget your password, there is a forgot your password link on that login page. So you can click that and follow the prompts to reset your password. Alternatively, if you're really having trouble, there's also a link to our support request form, so you can always use that as well. So when you first log into Re-TRAC Connect, you'll be taken directly to the home page, is what we're looking at right now. The page is designed to give you quick access to the programs that you participate in. Each program will have different goals and participation requirements. So for example, a local government might deliver a program to collect data from haulers or facilities, and another program may well collect data from commercial properties to ensure that they're meeting their recycling compliance requirements. Other programs might be entirely focused on community outreach and just encourage participation to report to increase public awareness. Many users will join Re-TRAC Connect because they're required to report data to a specific program. In this case, you likely already have been registered for that program, and it will be displayed on your homepage, so you would see it right here. So in this case, Metro would be an example of that. So we see Metro has already been added to my homepage, and it's listed on the home here under programs I've joined. Today I'm also going to show you how to join and participate in a free waste diversion tracking program, which of course is the other one you see, Tracker Lite. The program helps organizations track their material management activities, analyze the data using best practice reports, and it allows you to share those results to your Recycle Search profile. If you haven't joined a program yet, no problem. I will show you how to join a program and how to find programs to join, but I will leave that until a little bit later in the webinar. So let's begin by highlighting some useful features on the home page. Clicking on your name in the top right of the page will reveal a menu. And so from here you can click Edit User to edit your user information. That includes changing your password. You'll notice that here. So if you ever need to change password, you know where to go. It also includes the message center. So if I click on messages, here's where you'll receive your messages related to your program activities. And don't worry if you haven't checked your messages recently. The emails are also sent to the email address that you use to log into Re-TRAC Connect, so you won't miss anything. You can also access our support request form from this menu, as you see there. And so I'm just going to click Home to take us right back. You can always come back to this home page by clicking Home in the top left corner. All right, you may have logged into your account and noticed that there's a tour to introduce you to some of the new interface changes that we've made back in December. If you haven't seen that, no problem. You can always click on the tour icon in the top right of the corner, top right-hand corner of the page, and that will give you the tour again, so you can get a refresher on some of the features of each page. So before we begin to move on into reporting to programs, I'm just going to take a quick moment here to see if anyone has any questions about the homepage. Should be pretty straightforward. As a reminder, you can type your questions in the chat box. I will just give it 10 seconds, and if no one has any questions, let's move on to reporting to programs. Doesn't look like there are any questions, so let's carry on to participating in programs. So I had mentioned that on this page you will see programs that you have already joined, and so our first example will be the Metro Hauler reports here. This is the first one, and then afterwards I will show you a little bit about Tracker Lite. So I'm going to demonstrate how someone might report data to Metro. Let's begin by reporting. So I'll click on the Metro box, and I'll be taken to my members page for this program. So the members page displays every member that has joined the program so far. So we see that I only have the one, City of Portland. And I want to point out a couple features on this page before we carry on as well, just because it might be useful for you to remember. The first one I'll point out is this icon here on the right. This is the Edit Member icon, and I will click on it just to show you. This is where I can come to change my member information. So if I wanted to adjust the name here, I can do that. Or if we've had a change of address, I can make those changes here as well, and click Save at the bottom. I'll head back to members. So if you needed to add, or if you need to report to this program on behalf of multiple members, no problem. You'd be able to join this program using the add member feature, which I will point out a little bit later. So let's carry on with reporting to Metro. I only have one option here. It's the City of Portland, so I'll click on that, and we'll be taken to our workspace. So the workspace is really where you come to access the surveys that you'll need to complete in order to participate in this program. One quick tip, you can always return to that members page by clicking on this icon in the left hand corner of the screen, which reveals the program menu, and we can now see members or search surveys. So I can click members at any time and I'll head back there to that page. Each reporting program Re-TRAC has its own surveys and requirements. You can learn about the program participation requirements or read the instructions at any time by clicking Program Instructions right here, and that will open up a little dialog where you can read all about it. If you have any questions that are specific to this program or the reporting requirements, those types of questions should be directed to the program manager, and the program manager's information is always available as well by clicking here, and you can contact, in this instance, Rosalind Green. All right, so the surveys that you need to complete are listed here in the main content area of the workspace. And as I mentioned, each program setup is a little bit different, but generally you're going to see these surveys grouped in a variety of different fashions, and they work essentially the same way. So this example will give you everything you need to report to any program. So we see here that we have a first survey called Customer Counts, and we have 4 quarters. This is obviously a quarterly reporting survey. So let's just begin by opening the survey by clicking New. So we know that we need to complete this one, so we're going to go ahead and enter just a couple of sample pieces of data. Let's say 150 and 25. And that should be enough for us. So all surveys have a mix of fields. It's important to note that anywhere where you see a red asterisk, it's just indicating it's a required field, and you'll need to complete that to be able to save the survey without any errors. And you cannot have any errors to mark this as complete. So this one doesn't have any required fields. I can go ahead and input whatever I like. I've already entered some dummy values, but you will have noticed already the 2 buttons at the bottom of the page, Save Draft and Mark Complete. So clicking Save Draft will save the progress so that we can come back to this to edit the form at a later time. So let's say we weren't quite ready to complete this one, we can save this progress and carry on later. And I will do that. The other one, just so I can point out, Mark Complete, this locks your data and it will submit the response to the program manager. So you'll no longer be able to edit any completed responses, but you can always review those responses whenever you like. Let's just save this one as a draft for this example. Okay, so we get a success message telling us that we've successfully saved it. Now we can view and export the data for any of the saved or completed responses by opening the survey. We see that that's changed to draft. I can export this using the export feature on the right-hand side. And so I'll head back to the workspace. So you probably will have noticed this status has changed from new to draft. That's because we saved it. So let's say I was very happy with the data that I had entered in my draft. So let's go back to it. And I feel like this is ready to go. This is everything I have. I can now mark this complete. And it's going to give me a chance to say, or to confirm that I want to lock this response, so that I won't, I'm sure of it and it won't be editable again. And I'm going to do that. And again, we'll get the success message letting us know that it's been successfully saved and marked as complete. So that has now changed to completed for Q1 of 2017. So the next survey we need to complete is the material report. I'm going to head down here. And we're in January of 2018. I guess these could be updated. But this the survey is just a little bit different. And you'll notice it's stacked. And that's because it's used to collect multiple responses on an ongoing basis, whereas the previous example was a single response for that survey. So we refer to this material report survey as a transactional survey. In this program, members are expected to track data in their material report on a monthly basis. They'll come in here month to month and add more and more transactions. So to complete a transactional survey, you just have to find the correct cycle and click the new status icon, much like we just did. I'll click new. And here, this looks a little bit different, but here we have some fields are required. We see market, material, tons, and source are all required here. I'm going to just select an arbitrary group here, and we'll say 50 tons, and we'll mark this as residential. And so let's head to the very bottom, and you'll notice that you can always add more line items if you needed more than the 20 that are already defaulted here. And so I can always just save this as well. So I'm going to save this draft. And we notice right away we have 73 errors. So the reason for that is that we had all those required fields. I can easily find and fix these now, or I can simply save the draft. Down below you're seeing where it's marking these as these are all required. So I would have had to have removed all of these line items before I could save this without any errors. So we see all these errors that have been pointed out for us, so it makes it easy for us to correct. So I can go through this, remove each of these, and while it doesn't look like it's changing, we are dropping down the list. I'll remove each additional line, and this time let's save our draft. Successfully saved, no errors. Okay, so that covers our example for Metro, where we're reporting to a program. We covered 2 kinds of surveys, and now you should all understand the status icons and how to correct errors. So before I move into the next section of just showing you some of the other features in this page, are there any questions at all? All right, no questions so far. We'll keep going. So now that we've started to input a bit of data, we're going to want to be able to go back and see that data. So if we want to look at any of our historical responses for this member, there are a few ways to do it. So you can review all of your previous responses by clicking on the View All link next to the survey name. So they're next to customer accounts here. If I go to the far right, we see View All. I can click this, and it's going to show me that one response that we've created that was our first example where we took it from new to draft to completed. So I'm going to go back to the workspace. You'll notice there are some filter options here as well. If we had multiple responses, we'll be able to try to find the one we're looking for. And so for transactional surveys, I can head down here. I can still use that View All, and that's going to show me all the responses across each month. But I also have this banner you see here with 2 responses. So I can click that banner, and it's going to show me just those responses for January of 2017. And both are sitting in draft status. All right, so let's head back to the workspace. Some programs, not all programs, but some programs have analytics, and so that'll be our next page that I'll show you. Analytics will be in the main menu at the top here. Click that. And so we see just one report, and all you have to do is click it, of course, to open it. So we haven't entered a lot of data yet, but let's choose the 2017 year, and I'm going to just hit generate with these settings. And so this is basically showing me the data that we've entered so far, but as you can imagine, if you've been entering data for months or years, this will fill out quite nicely. So let's head back to the home page so we can get into our next example. Click home. And so that covers Metro. Let's now talk about Tracker Lite. A great part about Re-TRAC Connect is the ability to participate in multiple programs. So we just participated in Metro, now we're going to look at Tracker Lite. And it's the same process to get started. You click on the name, Tracker Lite. We can see that I have one member in this program. It's the Portland Recycling Depot. Tracker Lite is limited to tracking for a single location. So I'll click Portland Recycling Depot, and I'll be taken to my workspace for Tracker Lite. So with Tracker Lite, you notice already that there are different there's different forms basically on this page. So it looks a little bit different, but all the features are the same. So before I get right into this, let's talk a little bit about how Tracker is used. Tracker Lite is used. Tracker Lite is used to track materials by weight and identify how those materials were managed. So it's a free tool. You can come in and track throughout the year. It comes with best practice reports that you can generate to reveal insights about your diversion performance. So you might be wondering, what types of materials can I track? Is it a small set, or are there any configuration options that I can change? And the answer is yes. By clicking in the menu here again, I can click Tracker Settings. And this is a good place to start if you're just beginning to work with Tracker Lite. And from this page, I'll be able to make a few changes to the material tracking forms to sort of personalize it to my tracking needs. So I'm going to keep all these sectors checked off. Same thing with the sources below, but you can turn those on or off. And basically what will happen is they will either be displayed or hidden from some of the configuration options we'll encounter in a minute. I can change the default unit of measure. I'm going to keep it on tons here, but if I track in pounds, I can default all my forms to track in pounds. And then this table below will help me to add or remove materials from my tracking form. So if I wanted to, maybe I'll just point out these columns at the top here. Each of these represent a waste stream: recycling, solid waste, hazardous waste, organic, C&D, and E-scrap. And now each one of these waste streams have its own tracking form. So we can see that there are 2 materials from commingled recycling in my recycling tracking form, 3 from electronic scrap, and so on down the list. Just the same in the adjacent column of solid waste. We have 1 from organics, etc. So if I wanted to add a particular material to my recycling waste stream form, I could do that by clicking on the material category on the left. And here I have blue glass and brown glass configured. Let's say I want to turn those off, and let's just say we want to track mixed glass. I can do that by checking it and unselecting the others. Same thing with, let's look at solid waste. I can reveal that material category, and I don't really want to have those included in my hazardous waste, and I only want to track solid waste in my form, so I'll make those changes. And so that should be enough. Let's save this, and this will now sort of personalize our tracking forms. So let's begin tracking. Much like we did in the other example of Metro, we'll click on the new icon to open up our first form. So I had mentioned about a moment ago just how each waste stream has its own tracking form, and that can be seen here with the tabs. So I'm currently working with the recycling tracker form, but I will show you an example of tracking for the solid waste one in a moment. So let's start with our first transaction. I'm going to set the date, the 9th. I'll choose a sector, residential, and a source, and let's say this is coming from curbside single family. And then I'll head down to the material form. So you recall when I had added mixed glass to the form and removed the other forms of glass, we can see that right here with mixed glass under the glass category. So let's just say we wanted to add 20 tons of glass. And by the way, you'll notice this is all defaulting to tons, but let's say you were tracking one particular material and you just happen to track that in pounds. I can make that change right here, no problem. And then on the far right, this dropdown is used to identify how the material was managed. So I'm going to go down and say that this was recycled. And we'll do one for maybe aluminum, and we'll say that that was also recycled. And then we'll go down here and we'll say that some of our plastics, these were reused, let's say. And then when I head to the very bottom, I have a save button. So click save, and this will again give us a success message telling us that we've successfully saved that material transaction. And now let's do another example, this time from the solid waste stream. So I'll click the solid waste tab, and you'll notice right away that that the form refreshed to include some of these materials, and right away it looks like I should have removed food scraps from our solid waste stream. But I'm going to enter 75 tons of solid waste, and we'll say this was landfilled. And let's actually change the date for this, because I want to show you some of the reporting options. Just like that. And that should cover it. I mean, that's a good couple examples, and then I'll be able to show you how some of the reports would work with this. So let's head back to the workspace now. All right, so we have a couple transactions in 2018. This is the first Tuesday training in 2018, so we can see that we've been creating other responses in previous years. These work just the same way. You can click on this banner to take a look at the responses that have been created for 2017, or I can click View All to see all the transactions I've created to date. Just like that. And so you can always export your data to Excel spreadsheet from this menu, and you can use the filter options on the left to find a particular set of transactions. But I'm just going to head back to our workspace, and let's talk about analytics. So, we enter this data all with the purpose of analyzing it. So if I click analytics, we'll see I'll have 4 best practice reports that I can generate now with the data. And so let's start with just our diversion rate report. Okay, so the diversion rate report analyzes the diversion activities that you've tracked to determine the member's overall diversion rate. It allows you to calculate your all-time diversion rate, or you'll be able to see how the diversion rates change over time, so basically trends that by year or month. So the default diversion configuration sets diverted as composted, recycled, reused, or source reduced and waste prevention. But let's say you had a particular process that you consider diversion. Say it was other, I could click other and make sure that's included in the diversion rate. I'm going to remove it for the moment. And so let's just get a basic diversion rate for 2018, those 2 transactions I just created. So I head down, it shows us a chart which reveals that we have a 31.8% diversion rate, which was comprised of 35 tons that were diverted versus the 75 that were disposed. So these 2 charts, anytime you see a chart like this, you can click on the little hamburger menu here to either print or download an image of that chart. You can use that in annual reports or emails, or basically presenting to your team. And as we head down, the report also has a table. So the table is basically just giving us the numeric values that helped to build that chart up above. So 31.82% diversion rate, and then the tons of diverted and disposed in the table below it. The detailed results below, this is commonly used to compare member-to-member data. So let's say I had 10 members, I might want to compare their diversion rate performance. But since we're talking about Tracker Lite here, this is really it's limited to 1 member, and so we just see Portland Recycling Depot, and so we don't really need to review this down below. Let's head back up here, and just to show you how this can trend over time, let's say I wanted to look at the last, say the last 3 months, and I wanted to trend my diversion rate. I can click Generate here, and now this is giving me a nice line chart of our diversion rate performance and our diversion disposed. So pretty powerful. There are different views depending on which report you're looking at. Here we can see the column versus the line. But let's move on to the next report in the list. There are a lot of different configuration options you can use. Basically, one thing I'll point out here is the data that will be included in the report is always dependent on whether or not it falls within this time frame. So beginning and end dates will determine whether or not that data, the material transactions, will be included in the output. So back to analytics. Now let's talk about the GHG Equivalencies report. And so this is based on the EPA's WARM model. And for the materials that do have WARM factors associated with them, it can calculate the greenhouse gas emissions that have been created based on the material management activities that you've used. So this report is essentially used to convert complex GHG information into everyday terms that everyone can understand. So an example would be tree seedlings sown, or tree seedlings grown rather. Most folks won't necessarily know what metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent means. So tree seedlings grown is a straightforward term that folks can understand. This represents our diversion performance. So let's click generate for this one. And we get this nice chart that shows us 1,167 tree seedlings grown based on our recycling efforts. And conversely, on the bottom here, we see that our solid waste contributed quite negatively towards that result, everything falling below the zero. And again, we have different views here. And if you do want that metric tons of carbon dioxide equivalent metric, you will get it in the table below. So there's our aluminum, and there's the solid waste. So there are many different equivalencies you can choose from in here. I encourage you to come check this out. And let's head to our third report in the list, the material management report. So the material management report provides a moment-in-time view of your data. It can be analyzed by material, activity, sector, source, and waste stream. And you can select the materials that you want to include. So if there's a subset of materials that you want to include in the output, you can do that. I can just click on materials. Let's say I wanted aluminum and solid waste, which we know we've tracked for in 2018. I click generate, and it's going to give me a breakdown of those materials. We can see the 75 tons versus the 5 for aluminum. And the table below. So it's pretty straightforward. There are a lot of different configuration options, as I mentioned. So if I want to look at this by process, I can do that as well. And so we're seeing recycled versus landfilled, and the same thing with sector, sources, and waste streams. If you did want to change the output unit of measure, it's going to default to what you've set as your default, but just so you're aware, you could change that to pounds if you wanted as well. And our final report in the list, the trending report. This allows us to see how our performance has fluctuated over time. And so if I wanted to generate a trend report from, again, 2017, we'll say from November, and we'll go January of 2018, and month to month, I will see a trend report now to compare our materials over the last 3 months, so from November to December through to January. And if I wanted to look at this again by processes, I could do that. And this also has various views that you can choose, the stacked column or the column, etc. So lots of options, lots of configuration options to help you to get the output that you're looking for. So before I move into showing you a little something about Recycle Search profiles, are there any questions about anything that we've reviewed up to now? I'm just going to take 10 seconds again to see if there are any questions. As a reminder, you can ask your questions by typing them in the question box or the chat box. Either works for me. Or if you come up with a question later, you can reply to the Tuesday training emails. Okay, no questions. So let's say that we wanted to share this report that we're looking at right now to our Recycle Search profile. I can do that by either just sharing a part of it, so share the report piece. This button's always here, and I'm just going to share a portion of the report, or I can go to the very bottom and I can click Share Full Report. So I'm going to do that, and it's going to display this dialog here where I can give this a name, and I'll call this Trending Report November 2017 to January 2018. Exporting for Tuesday training. And so I give it a description, and I can click Save. And we'll see a little notice at the bottom here saying Save Training Report November 2017. So we've now saved it, but what does that mean? Basically, what that means is that we've saved it to a profile, and we can then publish that profile, publish that report, and share it to our profile. But where do we manage our profile? So this is where I will show you now the Recycle Search Profile tab. This is in the main menu. When I click this, I'll be taken to a page where I can add or edit some information about my organization. So you can see that I've already gone in here and saved some of this. That's fine. You can edit it, or you can add new stuff. But for the past 15 years, Re-TRAC Connect's worked closely with national, state, and local governments to transform the way that waste and recycling programs are being managed and measured. And having learned a lot, we consistently heard how important it is to share the results of these programs. It's one thing to collect data and use it to inform decision making. However, the next level is to share these results. Recycle Search was created as a public space where program managers and members can share their waste and recycling results. So if you're currently sharing recycling results on your website or on an e-newsletter, this profile will make this a lot easier. By creating a link to your profile from a website or including in a link in your newsletter, you can be sure that the results are always available. And because you have control over the profile, you can update the reports and other information as often as you like. So let's show you how this is done. You can also, doing it this way, reduce paper, of course, and any kind of printing costs associated with it. And if you don't share any results at all, no problem. Profile is just something that you should be aware of. So let's start by opening up the basic details. So let's tell the public a little bit about our organization, what we do, how they can get a hold of us, and we can even add links to our social media. So we see that I've added a contact name. Let's say I wanted to add a phone number. Same thing with website, my email address. I also have social media links that I've included here, and a description about this drop-off. Hours of operation, same kind of idea. Let's say I want to tell the public our hours so that they don't show up and try to drop something off and we're unavailable. Extra notes to say use the side door. Materials accepted, and this, while there's some similarity to Tracker Lite, there is no crossover, meaning that anything that you did in Tracker Lite will not show up here. The materials accepted module here is used to say we accept blue glass, clear glass, and aluminum, so folks can drop these off at our location and we'll recycle them. So I can always expand on a category to add another one. Let's say I want to add cardboard. We'll accept cardboard at our location. I can check that off and it will be included. So that when someone searches on Recycle Search for a drop-off site for someone nearby, they might find me in those results. All right, let's head down further now and add reports. So we had just shared that report a few moments ago, and it showed up right here. Trending report November 2017 to January 2018 from our Tracker Lite program. And we see, expand that description, exporting for Tuesday training. Great, so we now have that one saved, and we can include that on our profile. Down below, the frequently asked questions. So why is recycling so great? You can add as many frequently asked questions as you like, or if you no longer need one, you can remove it from that module as well. So I'm going to click Save with what we have here. And so all this information has been saved, but the important part to know is that none of it will be public until you've toggled this this switch here. So it's currently public. I can make all of this private, and none of this will show up in Recycle Search. By making it public, I can then click on this link here. I'm going to open a new tab so I can show you. And now I can see my Recycle Search profile with my contact information, our social media links, a map showing where we're located, helping people to get directions there, the materials that we'll accept, reports, and frequently asked questions. So it's all here in the profile. And just to show you the report, that's the same one that we just shared, that we generated a few moments ago, and then we saved it to our profile. Okay, any questions about profiles at all? I'm going to just point out a few more features of Re-TRAC Connect before we wrap things up for today. I had promised that I would show you how to find programs, so that would be the next step. It doesn't look like we have too many questions. Oh, that looks like I have one here. Let's have a look. So the profile, where does it, the question is, so where does the profile end up when it's made public? Thank you, Therese. This is made public to this URL, this link that you see here, which is located in Recycle Search. So I'll give you a bit more information about how this works. Let's open up Recycle Search. So Recycle Search is used to find recycling information from drop-off locations to organizations that are operating reporting programs in Connect. And so if I was to search for Portland Recycling Depot, I will see my recycling depot shows up here, and this is the profile that we were just looking at a couple minutes ago, but it is also paired with a couple other results that showed up here. So this can be, your profile will be found in results, but you can also use just the link here and link that directly from your website. Okay, perfect. So it looks like I answered that question well. If you have any other questions, feel free to email me. I'm going to move on now to, let's go back to our home page. So if you have not joined any programs, let's say you've come here with a fresh Re-TRAC Connect account and you're ready to begin participating in some programs, you would go to Find Programs, which is located right next to the Home button. So first we'll see programs suggested for you, and that's all based on your location. Let's say I wanted to look at all programs, I can click that and it'll reveal everything. It's also much easier, in my opinion, to simply search for a program if you know which program you're looking for. So if I was looking for WasteWise, I could click or type it into the search box, and it shows up here as a program. And I can click on it, and it'll take me to an About page, where it gives me a little bit more information about that program. I can join from here. They provide contact information. So if I wanted to join, I can either join using an existing member or existing organization. So these are the two that we're working with throughout this webinar today. I could either choose one of those to join, or I could create a brand new organization with which to report to WasteWise. And so that should cover it for today. Thank you everyone for joining. I'll say it one last time. You can always send me questions by replying to the Tuesday training emails. And you can join another Tuesday training at any time. You can join them as often as you like. Thank you everyone, and have a great afternoon. You should know that there is an exit survey that will pop up as soon as we end the webinar. We appreciate any feedback you can provide. It helps us to make sure that these are valuable to all attendees in the future. Thank you. Take care.